And we are rolling on April 24th, 2018, here at UCLA, where it's a beautiful day. The sunshine is shining, and we're about to hear some speeches, both respect and film speeches. Let your arms be loose. Never do that, what I call steepling like that or that. Never do that. Always keep your arms loose. And I like the way you've rolled up your sleeves so we can see your hands. That's excellent. Okay, your hair is cut off just a little. Let me see if I can get you in the picture better. Very good. Okay. Let me run through the 7 steps just for pedagogic purposes. Nicole is standing in the power stance. Her feet are slightly wider than her shoulders. She's looking around the room, managing attention, making sure no one's writing. All phones and computers are away and closed. All eyeballs are upon you. She says to herself, I respect my audience, and really means it. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Albert Einstein once said, I speak to everyone in the same way, whether they be the garbage man or the president of the university. On the first day of class, we were instructed to face our study buddies and say the words, I respect you to them, over and over again. And like my previous classmates have said, I honestly felt very uncomfortable and forced when I had to do this experiment. So when we were instructed to do this out in society in front of everybody that we met, I felt a little hesitant. But as I was doing the experiment, I think people responded fairly well, and I had a good time doing this experiment. So today I wanted to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of what I discovered. So overall in this experiment, when I was performing it, I did nonverbal cues such as eye contact, orientation of my body, nodding, smiling, and mirroring of the other person's facial features, depending on the conversation that I was having. And in terms of distance, I made sure not to be too far or too close from the other person, just in case that it was like awkward or anything. And if I ever wanted to pat them or touch them, I made sure not to do so in inappropriate places, like on the torso or below the waist or on the face. And when I first met the other person, I made sure to give them a handshake. And I made sure to also not do certain things such as like crossing my arms or being on my phone, because that would show the other person that I wasn't really listening to them. So moving on to the good parts of the story. I recently met up with a friend that I had management class with last quarter, and we kind of bonded over the fact that we didn't really get a good grade in that class. So throughout the conversation, I was mirroring her facial features and her movements. And because of that, I think she became more engaged in the conversation, and she had a friendlier tone of voice, even though we weren't that close to begin with. And her demeanor just lightened up, even though it was just slight. So I think that was one good thing that I noticed when I was doing this experiment. So going on to the bad, I think that a lot of people already covered most of what was bad. Like people were uncomfortable, or they were just shying away from the conversation, they were disengaged. And some people just were outright, like they just ignored me. So, but honestly, I think that sometimes it's just due to personality or the fact that like people might have just been having a bad day. So that was just some bad things that I noticed. In terms of the ugly aspects, I don't think I really ran into many weird like conversations, but there was this one time where I was talking to this guy, and I think all my nonverbal cues came off as, I guess, too nice or something, so he kind of asked me for my number after that. But I guess that was one ugly aspect. Overall, I learned that people like to be respected, and I think that even though there's some outliers, most of the time they respond generally well, and this is reflective of how others treat people in society. And I think that performing these nonverbal cues doesn't take a lot of effort, and a little really does go a long way. And this experiment taught me a lot, and I really think that doing this was very valuable to me, and it taught me how to speak to everyone in the same way, just as Albert Einstein did. So,
Thank you very much. Okay, nice. Okay, which side did we start on last time? This side? Okay, let's start over on this side. Hi. She brought me a Starbucks. That's awesome.
One thing that I liked about your speech.
Say your name, please.
My name is Nyla.
Hi, Nyla.
One thing that I liked about your speech is like your voice sounded friendly throughout it. Like even though you weren't like yes, like the good or like the bad, like it was still easy to pay along with you.
Good. Okay. So you could hear her, and it was clear. Good. Thank you, Nyla. Improvement.
Hi, I'm Danny.
Hi, Daddy.
Uncross your hands, Danny. Don't hold them together.
Overall, I think your speech was really good. The only thing I saw that could have been improved with, I think you used like, what, a few times? Yeah, that was it.
We don't like that filler. It's distracting, and so now you have it on. Now you have it on tape, and you can, when you practice with a live friend, ask them how that is one of your goals to say, I say like every time I say it, would you please raise your hand? Well, Nicole, I want to ask you a question first. I want to start with the positive. I really like your Einstein quote. It's a good quote, and I like the way you very naturally tied back to it at the end. I thought that was very effective. And it's a good philosophy to live by, especially if it's genuine. And people can sense if it's genuine. Okay? When you listed all the different nonverbal things that you did about the smiling and the orientation and not touching certain areas and smiling and mirroring and so forth, I want to ask you, were you saying to yourself also, I respect you inside as you were doing the exercise?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because you didn't mention that, because that's part of giving off the vibe in addition to these other things you were doing. So I was just worried you had skipped the most important thing, because in saying that so many times, that will result in these other nonverbal things just happening with you. If you really do respect someone, you're not going to grab them the way Trump does, or President Trump, excuse me, or whatever. You see what I mean? You'll have a different, orientation toward people. So, on your first, and I would like you to have a little more vocal variety in your presentation, and I would like you to make it sound like your narrative sounds like. So I'm the good, and you met your management friend and you bonded over getting a bad grade, but you said that it was a good bonding over the bad grade because your friend felt that you were really listening to her and really connected with her, and so that was a good story. Your second story of being ignored is what I warned you about. Yes, that's what happens. But this is for your benefit, for you to get in the habit and stay in the habit of saying the mantra as often as you can until it's just second nature. On the ugly, a guy asked for your phone number. Yes, I told you some men are dogs or absolutely lonely or whatever, and they misinterpret respect for something else, that you're looking for love. And what I would say, and this is the key thing, if your heart is pure, you can get out of trouble easily, because if your heart is pure, then you're not going to get in trouble. And it's easy to say, oh, thank you, I've got a boyfriend. I'm flattered, but I got a boyfriend. And no one loses face. And we all go on with the white line, you go on with your life, and, life goes on, on when you came to what I learned, you didn't really say, so what did I learn? See? So I'd like you to make your narrative a little bit more prominent. So what did I learn? And I like your comments about the outliers and the reciprocation and the society and good manners. The summary on respectful vibrations that you commented on, that comes from saying the mantra, which you've clarified for me now, and you ended nicely with Albert Einstein. So you did a very nice job, Nicole. Thank you. These are the self-evaluations. Okay, good. Yeah, get those in as soon as you can, folks. Yeah, all right. Another respect speech. Okay, thank you. Okay, you're a little taller, so let me work this out. It's okay, I'll move. That's good. You take one step that way, yeah. And Aaron stands before you, managing attention. His feet are a little wider than his shoulders. He's looking around the room, making sure all phones are away, computers are closed, all eyeballs are upon you. You say to yourself, I respect my audience. You look around and really mean it. You find friendly eyes near the front and center. You say your name filled with love and start your speech.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
So I have a confession to make. When I heard the speech idea at first, I was a little bit skeptical. I thought it was kind of lame, a little bit dumb, because I felt like I was already pretty respectful towards most people. But I have to say that I learned a couple things over the course of this experiment. So I'm going to tell you a good story, a bad story, and an ugly story about my experience communicating respect to strangers as well as some of my close friends. So first off, the good story. I was walking down Bruin Walk, and I was giving this guy great eye contact as I was walking by. He was really sort of eccentric, you know. He was from UCLA radio, and he had these big flared out pants and like hoop earrings. And I just like gave him respect. I was like looking him straight in the eye, and I nodded, and he nodded back, and he sent me these crazy vibes of like just chilled out excitement and just I felt very warm. And so I think there was this moment where just in passing we communicated a lot of respect, a lot of warmth. It made me feel like other people kind of noticed me, noticed my presence, and it was really nice. So the sort of bad story is also on Bruin Walk, and I don't know if it's necessarily bad, but it's kind of related to how a lot of people have been talking about guys asking for their numbers and stuff like that. Girl didn't ask for my number, but I was giving really strong eye contact to a group of frat boys, and so they took that as a sign of interest and basically decided to flatter me, and said, no thanks, I'm not interested, but I can see how, when you give anybody on Bruin Walk kind of attention, they sort of see as, oh, here's an opportunity to get my flyer up. So that was the good story and the bad story. Now I'm going to talk about the ugly story. Which was a little bit surprising because this comes from my roommate. So someone I'm very close to. I spent a lot of time with him. He actually showed me a lot of disrespect. And basically what happened was I was sitting around working on some stuff. He came into the room, and so I started a conversation with him. And I gave him sort of eye contact and turned my body towards him even though I was at my desk. And he came in, he sat down at his desk, I was talking to him, and he kind of his back was facing me, so I kept talking, and he kept looking at his computer, and then it continued like this for a few minutes before he sort of He didn't really, I mean, he just never reciprocated anything. He kept working. He looked back at me only a couple times, only when he was talking. And so it made me feel kind of just like I wasn't important, like his computer was more important than I was, whatever I was saying, and I didn't value our conversation. And so that was a really ugly experience, and it helped me understand, you know, how much power your respect can bring to a conversation. So, in summary, I took this assignment as an experiment to see how respectful I truly am towards strangers and towards people I already know. I learned that, in general, I'm pretty good at communicating respect to strangers, but perhaps I can work a little bit better on connecting with people who I see on every day. So, in the future, I plan to pay special attention towards people I see every day, giving them lots of eye contact and making sure that I face them and give them respect, just because I know how much of a difference that makes in your relationship.
Thank you. Here, yes.
Hi, I'm Chang.
Hi, Chung.
So I like the way you describe in your good story the person, the appearance of the person, his attire, his earrings. So those details really make the story come alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a good one.
Okay, thank you, Chung. Yeah, your story came alive nicely about your first contact on Bruin Walk. That was good. Improvement.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
Hi,
Hi,
Sophia.
Maybe you can be a little more smooth in your walking.
Yeah.
But like overall, I
Yeah.
really like your speech.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, I like your speech and parts of it. I want to start teaching you how to walk. So let's start by putting the paper away and try to resolve never to use a paper again when you're up here.
Okay.
Because it hurts your credibility. It really says, I don't have a memory, and you're an elite UCLA student and you do have a memory and you need to use it. Okay, so stop it. Kick off those training wheels with a little piece of notepaper. We walk, we don't turn our back to the audience, we don't do sideways scissor steps. We step in the direction that we're going to walk first.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going to walk to your right, you step right first with your right foot. Try it. 1, 2, 3. Stop. Go into the power stance. Work the side of the room. Stand, work for the good. Now, 5 steps. You step with the left. 2, 3, 4, 5, and come to the power stance. Now, stop right here. What did you do wrong when he was walking? He turned to the side, didn't he? He didn't keep it sheeted forward. So go back all the way over there, and you want to walk the same. You step to the left, but you keep it sheeted forward. Yeah, nice. And come to the power stance. Don't come to the little weak stance, but the power stance. Work the side of the room for the bad, blah, 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 blah. Now, the ugly one. No, you never cross. First step is never a cross. 1, 2, 3, back to center. Power stance, and the grand finale. Now, second thing, Aaron and everybody else, is practice walking when you practice your speech at home with your study buddy or your mother, brother, lover, or homeless guy. That will get you in the habit of walking. Don't think you're going to remember to do it here in class if you don't do it at home. Okay. Use the Roman numerals. Stay in the
Okay, sorry.
camera.
I was practicing.
Stay in the camera lens, please. Use the Roman numerals that we used that I gave you for the prompt.
Yeah.
I like your confession. You thought this was stupid and lame, but you finally got something out of it that was heartfelt and a good grabber. I would have preferred you use the prompt where it says good, bad, and ugly, and that it's not just me being, a Nazi. It helps you remember what you're supposed to be talking about, and you don't even have that in here. So, so good, bad, and ugly would have been a good outline form to use. Now, on the good, you connected with the UCLA radio guy, and you had a good verbal description of him, so that was good. My question is, in doing this, you talked about body orientation, all this. Were you saying the mantra as you were walking around and doing this too, and doing body orientation and smiling and making good eye contact? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's an important part of this, not just, smiling and looking, but continually saying it. I respect you. Mm-hmm. Now, the frat guys, yes, it didn't matter. It was frat guys. It could be the Bible, the Jesus people. Anybody that takes their flyer, boom. You want to come to our meeting, don't you? Or the Audubon Society. They want you to come. All it takes is eye contact and take a flyer, and you're hooked. So that's why most people don't make eye contact and don't do that. They put their heads down or put their headphones on or do the phone dealio when they're walking down Bruin Walk. On your bad, about your roommate, I think you gave your roommate a little bit of a bad rap in that it seems to me that his expectations were not to have a communication with you, but do his homework on his computer. Now, if you were in your living room having two brewskis and sitting across from each other and trying the experiment, maybe you would have had better results, but he clearly was trying to get something done, and you're over there going, hey, giving him the whammies to his back, and I can see why it really didn't have much of an effect. Okay? So, what I learned, he said, pretty good with friends, not so good with strangers. Yeah, well, when we work with everybody, it works really good with, actually I found it works very good with strangers, because often that's all they have to go on is they sense your vibrations and they pick it up. And if you're kind and you're respectful to them, and the way Albert Einstein is to the garbage men or to the people that clean your rooms or whatever it is you have, then they will pick that up. Yeah. So that's enough. You did a good job, but follow the outline. Don't put your hands in your pocket, and practice walking. Thank you, Aaron. Okay. Time for some film speeches. Do I have any volunteers? What?
I'll go.
Great, thank you. Let's hear it for the volunteer. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. How's our time going? Yeah, we're doing good. Okay, good. Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Okay, Spencer. Okay. Spencer, stay right there for a moment. I want everyone to see where Spencer's standing. Spencer's way back. He's almost to the wall. Looks like he's afraid of being in the group. So never stand so near the wall, Spencer. It looks like you're afraid of public speaking. So now you're up in front of the public speaking area, and that's much better. One step to your right will get you right in the center of my screen, which is what I want. You're a tall kid. Okay, good. Spencer stands before you. You seem a little stiff, so can you loosen up a little? You seem making me nervous. You're so stiff. Okay. Spencer stands before you, managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm Spencer Weissman.
Hi, Spencer.
The greatest football coach in the world once said, winning isn't everything, but wanting to win is everything. I grew up with this mantra in my head and something I followed my entire life. It was said by Vince Lombardi, who coached the Green Bay Packers. And for most of my life, I truly believed this, and I kept on trying to win in everything I did, and that's the only thing that mattered to me. Until I saw this movie called When the Game Stands Tall. And in this movie, it introduces what you have to do beyond the game, and that winning isn't the most important thing, and that you have to realize that even if you don't win, you got to grow as a person from everything you do. So, as I said, the movie that I'm using for this speech is When the Game Stands Tall. And in this film, I felt inspired, I felt sad, and I felt happy. So, according to Scott Fondas of Variety, he said that this film lacked gridiron thrills and nothing beyond it, and said that the movie was very empty in the way it was done. I strongly disagree with this because I think he missed the main message of the film. The whole idea of the film is to understand that when life gives you problems, you got to learn how to deal with it, and you got to learn how to bounce back even at a young age. And that means there's someone in your life who's got to instruct you to do that, which the coach in this film does really well. So the first way this film changed the way I operate is that it made me sad. In the film, it goes through a tough time for the team. During the off season, the graduating senior, who was the star of the team, was getting ready to prolong his career at the college level and get to the next step. And while he was packing up and getting ready, saying his final goodbyes to his friends, he was murdered in a drive-by shooting. And what this did to me is it gave me a shock value, and it reminded me of the time I lost my uncle suddenly. Because what that does is when you lose someone that's close to you and someone that you have a real bond with, it's easy to brace for it when someone's sick and you know it's going to happen and you start coming to terms with it. What no one in this community, this team, and the players around them and me felt was this chance to prepare and feel like this moment was going to happen. So it makes you feel really sad. It makes you feel challenged in life, and you wonder, why does life give you this problem? Why does it make you do this? And this is a moment where you're no longer winning. And what you learn from this is that you got to grow as a person. You got to learn to deal with the bumps and bruises because it makes it you who you are, and it leads you to adapt to who you are. The next thing this movie did was it inspired me. The way this film did this is it introduced a really tough scene for the team in which they faced their toughest opponent in their history of playing football. They faced Long Beach Poly, who at the time was the biggest powerhouse in the history of high school football. They had a roster of close to 100 men. They weren't boys who they were playing who were high school kids. They were facing kids who were without question ready to play at the college level. They had 300-pound linemen. They had the best athletes on the field, and they had elite talent all across the board. The team overcame this, even though they were undersized, undermanned, and not prepared for the game as well as the other side, by beating them just because they had more heart and cared more about the game. This relates to my life in that as an athlete for 4 years, my senior year of varsity badminton, we faced a team that our entire lineup before us, before I took the field, had already lost. Like, there's no chance of our team winning the match that day. And it came down to us as being the only ones to redeem the team and lead it as something that can inspire us to the next match. The team we faced had not lost all year. They were on pace to go to counties undefeated and the favorite to win conference. So when I went out there with my partner, we just played loose. We were the David as they were the Goliath, and we defeated them. And it really sparked our entire team because it gave everyone a reason to believe that even if you are undermanned or underskilled, if you play with more heart, you are going to win. And then the last way this movie moved me was that it made me feel happy. The reason why this movie made me feel happy as an athlete was that the team realized what it was all about at the end. In the final game of the season, in the state championship, the star running back had an opportunity to break the California state record for touchdowns in a season. And when he was given the play call from the coach, instead of going in for that touchdown and being all about himself, he realized that the whole mantra of this team is that you need to do it what's best for everyone around you, and it's not just about the single achievement, but everything that goes into it. And he decided not to take the record. He decided to sit out that play. He took 3 knees and said, I don't want this because I'm not above the team. And where this connects to my personal life is during my lacrosse career, our team was filled with a bunch of kids who really only cared about their own individual statistics. They didn't care if the team won, they didn't care if the team lost, and they didn't care if we developed real bonds as a group of individuals. So what ended up happening here is that we ended up being a broken team. And it finally, after one of our games where we had a stunning win, our team finally came together and realized that it doesn't matter who scores the goals or who gets the points or who does the pretty things. But if we do it all as a team, that's what's all that truly matters, which is what I've taken away from this movie. So in summary, this movie has made me feel sad, it's made me feel inspired, and it's made me feel happy. Going back to my original point of the fact that this movie is so influential on my life, it's because it taught me not to just be limited in who I am. It taught me that in order to succeed as a person, you can't judge it by the wins in your life. It's more than that. It's more about the effort that you put into things and giving it your all, even if it doesn't seem like it's worth it. So to end this speech, I'm going to go back to my original quote of the great Vince Lombardi and say he wasn't right when he said winning isn't everything, because winning isn't the main concern in life. The goal of life is to live it to the best possible ability and give it your maximum effort.
Thank you. Okay. Good. Where are we? Hi. Connie?
Hi, I'm Connie.
Hi, Connie.
I thought your speech was really good, and I really liked the part of your introduction where you had the quote and you kind of like went along with it for the first part of your life, and then kind of contrasted it. So I really like the contrast you did there, and your stories are really well done, and like it made me like felt very relatable to me as like being someone who was also on a team sport. So I really like the way you did your introduction and like how you tied it back to the conclusion and everything.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Improvement?
Hi, I'm Saloni.
What's your name?
Saloni.
Saloni?
Yes.
Hi, Saloni.
So I first want to start, like, I really liked it, your speech in general. I think maybe there were just kind of some long pauses and ums, but other than that, I think it was really good. And I feel like the personal stories you chose, it really, like, it made sense to me why you picked this film, because I think sports are really important to you, so I think overall it's really nice.
Great, thank you, Saloni. Spencer, yeah. This is a good speech. You delivered it, you developed it well, you delivered it extemporaneously. Let your hands be by your side, just be relaxed. Yeah. Watch yourself tonight on YouTube and see what Saloni's talking about with the pauses and stuff. But yeah, the Vince Lombardi, I was sort of groaning to myself because the last 40 years I've heard it used a bunch of times, so I've heard the quote before. But I like the way you kind of tricked it around and abandoned it at the end, so that was good. So that was nice. Yeah. I like the way you presented your thesis, which was I prefer that you present it in the order that you present it in your main body, so that it's easier for the audience to follow. So sad, inspired, and happy. Okay, so keep it in that order. I like the way you presented a review that was negative, and you said, this guy's up a river, he's wrong. So that was good. On sad, yeah. Here you talked about somebody getting killed in a drive-by very briefly, and you talked about your uncle that died suddenly, correct? Yeah. And I want you all to notice something, and I want you to notice this tonight when you watch it on YouTube. It's a very interesting thing that a lot of beginning people that aren't used to dealing with their feelings in the first person, they shift to the second or third person when they're talking about them. And I want you to stay in the first person. But what you really wanted to talk about is I did not get to say goodbye, and you went into this. You did not, and I want you to keep it in the I for the most part when you talk about your feelings, and that's much more powerful. Okay, and I want you to end on the emotion that you're trying to communicate, and the fact, and give him a name. What was your uncle's name? You don't have to give his real name, but just give me a name.
Just say Marty.
Marty. And you can just say, my Uncle Marty, I just, the fact that I didn't get to say a final goodbye to my favorite Uncle Marty to this day makes me really sad. And end on the emotion that you're trying to communicate to your audience. So that'd be the last thing you say in the paragraph, see? Uninspired. Yeah. You told us about varsity badminton, right? And you talked about the notion of being overwhelmed by the other side, and yet you still were able to be inspired and come through, and that was a pretty good story. So I like that. The only thing I'd say is remember to return to, and that's why I was inspired. And then on the happy, that same thing about the lacrosse team, and when that lacrosse team that was so disjointed and so self-centered and so nasty all year came together for the first time, I was so happy. And end on that, and that's why I felt so happy. Okay? Summary was good, conclusion was good. When the game stands tall, you mentioned it, so that was good. No doubt in this room, it really did move me. And I like the way you changed the Lombardi quote and moved it around. You didn't use a note card. Your hand movement was better, and you were able to name the author and everybody you cited with the exception of your uncle. And you had a bibliography that was the only thing that was done in Chicago style, and that was good. And so you did a good job. Thank you very much. Yeah. What's our time looking like? Yeah, we have time for one more. Yeah. Have another volunteer. No volunteer? Is there another A in the house? Who's an A? Hey. Thanks for volunteering.
You're
Okay, let me reset the camera. Let's take a step back. Yeah, the middle of the box. Yeah. Very good, yeah. Okay, Brenda stands before us in the power stance. Nicely done. Looking around the room and making sure that all phones are away, that no one is writing or texting. She says to herself, I respect my audience, as she looks around and really means it, finds friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hi everyone, I'm Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
People love what other people are passionate about, explains Mia, the protagonist in the movie La La Land, and I totally agree with her. As a dreamer, I look at the sun and see it as a spotlight over my head, and I look at the wind, I hear the wind through the leaves, and I think of the music, and I see the world as a big theatrical stage where people work around every day to make their dreams come true. sorry, where people make work to make their dreams come true. Sorry.
7 billion people.
Could I start over?
Just say 7 billion people get their dreams realized. Just say it in your own words.
Oh. So where people make their dreams, come true. As I find it amazing that there's over 7 million people in the world, and with this comes 7 million dreams. However, it would be very naive to say that all these 7 million dreams get realized. So today I would like to talk to you about a movie that really moved me, La La Land. This movie made me happy, it made me sad, and it also made me bittersweet. So to start off with the good of the movie.
Significant statement. I'm going to give you a little hint. Why is this movie significant?
Sorry, they're
Deals with significant themes like
Okay.
you'll be interested, Time Magazine stated.
Okay. So it made me feel happy, it made me feel sad, and it also made me feel bittersweet. So the movie contains many significant themes that I knew you guys will all find interesting. As the Times Magazine states, if it would take a naivety to think that a movie filled with gold, age, sorry,
Gold Age movie can resonate with a cynical audience.
that with the Gold Age movie can resonate with a cynical audience. Would it resonate with a cynical audience? I'm so sorry. So
That's enough. It's a beautiful masterpiece. You know. That's the end of the quote.
it's a beautiful masterpiece.
Okay, so tell us how it moved you.
Okay. The first way that the movie made me feel was that it made me feel happy. The reason that the movie made me feel happy was the opening scene. The opening scene begins with a vibrant, joyous musical piece that resonates, conflicts with the dual set of the 10 slow-moving freeway. And the reason this particular instant made me feel happy was because it reminded me of a musical piece that I did at a summer program. The musical piece that I performed at the summer program was an ovation to the classics of Motown records in the early 1960s. And when this happened, it really made me appreciate the music that really shaped our present music day tunes. In addition, it made me also happy to see that the director of La La Land, Damien Chazelle, was able to bring something like the 10 freeway, which is so close to the heart of us Angelinos, and use it as to create a spontaneous and exciting move that doesn't really conform or restrict itself to the ideas and the thoughts of the audience. Moving on to why this movie made me sad. This movie really made me sad in the scene where Mia, the protagonist, is auditioning for a role as an actor, sorry. And the casting director ignores her. Instead of paying attention to Mia, the director prefers to order her lunch to her secretary versus paying attention to Mia and really giving her the attention and the respect she deserves. The reason this scene made me sad was because it reminded me of the unemployment that is happening in our country. In particular, my father's story, which he's told me an endless amount of times, and which really, when he first migrated to this country. So when he first migrated to this country, he had this hope to better himself and also to help his family back home. However, the problem that came with it was that he was unemployed. And just like Mia, he went looking for work, but many of the employers oversaw his potential skills and didn't really give him the chance to talk for himself. So this scene really made me sad, as it reminded me that there's dozens of people out there, yet they're not given the chance to be heard just because they're being judged by their looks or because maybe something worse, such as the color of their skin. So it really saddened me to see the injustice and the role, the way it was portrayed in the movie. Now, moving on to why it made me bittersweet. The movie made me bittersweet because the scene that made me bittersweet was the scene when Mia goes out of the bar, of Sebastian's bar, and kind of signifying that they're each parting their own ways. This really made me bittersweet because it reminded me of myself when I left home for college. Although I didn't leave home a far distance from home, it really made me sad to be parting with friends whom I spent every day with to starting a new unfamiliar path, which I wasn't sure of. It reminded me that we were all going our different ways, but it also gave me like a hope to know that I was starting something new and exciting. So, in conclusion, I shared with you how this movie, La La Land, made me feel happy, made me feel sad, and it made me feel bittersweet. There should be no doubt in this room that this movie really resonated with me. And although we may all come with the world is telling us to stop and like quit our dreams, I feel like we should keep striving because these trials just represent how much it's all a process of the dream making.
Thank you. You can call me now. Your turn. Whose turn? Yeah, I guess.
Hi, I'm Kenneth.
Hi, Kenneth.
Hi, Kenneth.
I also really enjoyed the movie La La Land. It's actually one of my favorite films. I really like how like you correlated like how La La Land also reflected on your life because like it really does show like not all dreams do come true, but like if you do like persevere, things do happen. Because like it does reflect like as much effort you show in, but then like that's how much sometimes like you do get out, but not all the time. I like how that like you did pick yourself up, even though you did stumble in the beginning. Like speaking is obviously like really hard, but like you picked yourself up and like you ended on a very good note, and like I really like that like positivity and like push that you picked it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard being an A on the first film speech, but let's give her a hand for getting through it. I can see him through.
Hi, I'm Joanna.
Hi,
So just going on to
Joanna.
what Professor Miller said, you regained your composure and that was really great. Aside from that, I think just in general there were some filler words in there. You said a bit, and maybe you could speak a little louder, more vocal variety. Aside from that, I really liked your content.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, something happened with the camera. It went on to it wasn't showing so well, so I had to turn on the light just so it would be a better quality. I apologize for the interruption, but I just wanted it to be a better quality, so that's why that happened. You how does your canise, Brenda? Speak slower. Use less vocalized pauses. Use gestures correctly. What I want you to do next time in particular is I want you to start really slowly in the beginning, because you went like this. People love what other people are passionate about. Explain me, protagonist in the film La La Land. Pretty quick for some heavy material there. People love what other people are passionate about. You know, those are some heavy thoughts there. People love what other people are passionate about. Give your audience a chance to decode the meaning and think about what you're saying to them. You can say, exclaim Mia, the protagonist of the film in La La Land. You can zip by those phrases, but not the quotes so much, see? And I agree with her. As a dreamer, I find intriguing, and then you go on with the stuff. But still, when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you'll see that you were kind of zipping right along. And I really want to see you slow down and build in some pauses actually, so you'll break this quick pattern that you have of how fast you're going. Sad, happy, sad, and bittersweet. One of the dangers, and for all of you this will be a lesson, if you choose a really long quote to quote for your movie review, you remember you have to say it. So, lesson learned, huh? You know, so maybe a shorter one and blah, 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 but you got the idea of it. And the idea, folks, is to say it in your own words and don't try to memorize it word for word. Just say it in your own words each time. And that's the way to learn it extemporaneously. Once you got into your own words and you were just speaking extemporaneously, you were doing very well. Happy, the 10 Freeway Summer Program, Appreciation of Music, Celebration, yeah. That was your best one. I could really feel your happiness come through on that one. That was really excellent. The sadness, yes. I felt the sadness that came from your father and his struggle. I want to remind you and everybody to return to the emotion you're communicating at the end, and that's why I felt so sad, right? Say it again. And then the third thing was bittersweet, and you need to say, and that's why I felt bittersweet. Summary, conclusion, tieback, I have no suggestions. They were fine. And your kanais were on point. You do need to speak slower. And I don't know about this less vocalized pause. I don't know what that means exactly. And what gestures do you think you're using incorrectly?
I just like wanted to be like
More
like,
animated?
Yeah, like going to the position and then like resting. I know we talked about that. Like in the
Yeah, okay. Just try to be natural with it. Well, the last thing I want to do is don't say to you, don't move your hands or something, because people end up being really stiff and keeping them by their side. Just let them move naturally as they will. Overall, you did a good job once you got past the beginning. So that was a nice effort. Thank you, Brenda. I guess we don't have enough time to do another one unless, is there another person burning to go today? Okay. Oh, you're burning to go today? Looks like you have a big tear in your eye. You'll live? Okay. Bees, be ready. Return with honor. Bye, everybody.
See you soon.
Oh, I have to stop it.